Chapter 311. He just took a few steps into the space. Lulak's presence filled the office. It was an inaccessible energy that ordinary people would be intimidated by. Has the patriarch come? Well, that's true. The staff at the top of Lombardi muttered to each other in suffocating voices. Although working at the top of the Lombardi family, it was not common to face the family member in person. But what about Lulak Lombardi, the head of the family? While the patriarch came in, they quickly stepped back to clear the way for Galliahan to reach him. There was an uncontrollable tension and excitement on the side of glancing at Lulak Lombardi. Father. Gallihan bowed his head along with the people. What brings you here? I stopped by for a while on my way back from the Imperial Palace. Lulak Lombardi answered Gallihan's question with eloquence. However, the Patriarch of Lombardy was too busy as for them to believe that word. Even if the top owner visited Lombardy's mansion because the Lombardy's top case needed approval, he had to wait a few hours to enter the office. Moreover, it was even rarer for the Patriarch to visit the top office directly. Even if the Patriarch wanted to do that, he didn't have time because of the busy schedule. Recalling that point, Romasi Dillard took turns looking at Lulak and Galyahan, who stood next to him, and naturally intervened in the conversation between the father and son. Welcome, my lord. And the Patriarch is right. Galyahan, thank you so much. We got through the big crisis. At the words of the top owner, each of the employees nodded their heads, then unable to say no anymore. Gallian's face turned slightly red as he nodded reluctantly, but that too for a while. Good job, Gallian. At the encouraging words of his father, the pleasant redness disappeared as if washed away, leaving only his face hardened in surprise. Rather than compliments, he was used to scolding, and rather than saying good job, as it's now, he was used to the disappointing appearance. TN. Right? For the type of personality like Gallian's, too much pressure will discourage him. Gallian didn't reply but bowed his head once more. You should be rewarded for your achievements. Everyone's ears perked up at Lulak's muttering words. But what is the award given by the head of the great Lombardi family? While each of them spread their imaginary wings, Lulak continued. It would be enough if you accompany me to the Crown Prince's wedding. It's not a gold bar or a lot of money, but a price to accompany a wedding. Several tilted their heads. However, those who knew the value, like Romasi Dillard, opened his eyes wide in surprise. After the death of his spouse, Natalia Lombardi, Lulak had never personally taken his family to an official event. In general, this was different from the way the head of an aristocratic family accompanied a person who had been designated as the successor, teaching work naturally and creating connections. In short, it is the same as the expression, I have not yet decided on a successor. Lulak and his children always entered separately, but such a Lulak told his youngest Galyahan that he would take him to the public eye. It was also at the wedding of Crown Prince Jovins. All the implications of the short proposal were beyond words. What are you going to do, Galyahan? It was a question as if he had a choice. Galyahan paused for a moment before closing his eyes and opening them. He already knew that it was not simply a question of whether to accompany the wedding. Although he already knew about Shan, his father did not impose any restrictions on him. He just watched him do his work, and when Galyahan began to excel in Top's work, he put Vij on her, putting Shan into trouble. It took away her place to stay and her job, which meant she had no reason to stay in Lombardy, and he is now commanding his son. Literally, take the hand that offered you a prize and hold it with gratitude. Of course, in order to do that, he had to let Shan's hand off first. A few seconds passed as if stretched out between Galyahan and Lulak facing each other. Thank you for this great opportunity, father. At the end of the silence, Galyahan answered heavily. Yes, you made the right choice, Galyahan. Speechless, Galyahan just bowed his head silently, as if to confirm the appearance. Lulak, who looked down satisfactorily, turned his back and left the office. Only one person came in and left again. The top staff opened the window and trembled as if they were barely able to breathe. As the surroundings became noisy again, Galyahan still remained there. Romasi Dillard smiled broadly, approached him like that. Congratulations, Mr. Galyahan. I knew this would happen when the Patriarch gave Mr. Galyahan the top's job. He looked happy as if it was his own business. If you attend the royal wedding with the Patriarch this time and work a little more in the future. He didn't bring it out of his mouth in case of cheating, but it was natural that Galyahan would be selected as the next head of Lombardy, from one's own child to another, from the standpoint of a vassal who has to serve the Lombardi family from generation to generation. Romasi Dillard's concerns were as great as Lulak himself. This was because there was no sprout of a suitable successor. Therefore, even if it was late, Galyahan's existence seemed to be a lifeline that came down from the sky. Top Lord, yes, Mr. Galyahan, if you're done with your urgent work, can I go back now? I want to rest because I'm tired. Oh, I didn't think that far. It would have been better if you returned home with the Patriarch a while ago. No, Gallihan shook his head. I think it's better to walk slowly. Then I'll see you later. Yes, thank you for your hard work, Mr. Gallihan. Gallihan, who had stared at Romasi Dillard's smiling face for a moment, started walking through the city of Lombardy. Also refused the courage of the family that had been waiting for him. He moved as if he had lost his destination until he reached the commoner's quarters, and he stopped near a house surrounded by a small fence. Sorrow filled his eyes as he lifted his back, but that was only for a moment. This time Gallihan headed towards the Lombardi mansion. The roof of a small house still showed off his redder light in the middle of the day, behind the steps that was taken in a big stride, unlike a cautious personality. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. On the day of the wedding of Crown Prince Jovin's, the mansion was bustling with the Lombardi family attending the wedding and employees helping them prepare. The same was true of Patriarch's place. A low knock sounded in Lulak's room, where he was checking his appearance for the last time with the help of the butler. Come on in. As expected, the visitor was Galliahan, the youngest son. I'm almost ready to, so wait a little bit. Lulak stopped talking. His gaze was fixed as if stuck in the bag Galliahan was holding. Father. Galliahan, who greeted politely, was not dressed for the banquet. The simple clothes, not fancy, seemed like a person traveling far away. I'm here to say goodbye. Galliahan's face, who said so, also resembled a person who will leave for a long way. It was as light and firm as a luggage bag in one hand. Galliahan. Anger swelled in Lula. What kind of bullshit is that? The low voice sounded like frost. Do you dare to resist even a belated rebellion? However, Galliahan only answered calmly. I'm not rebelling. I just made a decision according to my will. In fact, he has never thought about it at all. From the beginning, the answer was as good as it was, and it only took time for the courage to catch up with the answer. You're out of your mind. Maybe it is. Gallihan nodded. I've lived my whole life in fear of my father, but seeing how calm my heart is. Such an easy one. It was so easy it was almost in vain. Gallihan faced his father, who was always likely to be crushed when he stood in front of him. I leave everything in Lombardy, father. All the money that has been paid to me is in the bank vault. Are you saying you're going to be a wanderer and make a fool of yourself? To Lulak's roar, Gallian answered in a calmer voice. Fortunately, I am not empty because I have inherited things from my mother, so don't worry. What? My mother left me the most legacy among our four siblings. Perhaps she probably did it with a day like this in mind. Galliahan, you really. I thought I had to find a place to set foot in Lombardy. Fortunately, the job at the top was easier than I thought. Anyway, I was proud to see that I was also Lulak Lombardi's son, but it was just that I was not happy. It became clearer that the only place where my heart could rest was by that person's side. Sean is such a person to me, father. He could have left the mansion silently, but he didn't do that. As he did, he thought his father should be given a choice. Please accept Sean as a member of the family, father. If that is the case, I will work harder to stay in the family and not be ashamed of the name Lombardi. The decision was entirely up to Lulak. End of chapter 311. Chapter 312. From a young age, Galliahan was silent and quiet. However, that did not mean that he had a gloomy personality. He was very emotional and easily cried and laughed at even the smallest things. Then when did he start making such a face in front of me? Lulak thought while looking at the face of his expressionless youngest son. However, the answer to the question he asked himself could not be found. It must have been a few years ago, but now an uncountable amount of time has passed. He thought he made a mistake. He missed out on so much as a father. Somewhere, it seemed, he could hear the voice of his deceased wife angry now. You're going to do the impossible, Gallihan. He was angry at Gallihan's words for a moment, but Lula quickly calmed his mind. How can you live a life without shame by accepting wandering people into your family and leaving a stain on the name of Lombardi? Are you saying that Sean's existence will be a stain? Then you're saying it's not true? Gallihan felt as if he were facing a wall. There was no sign of contempt or ridicule as Veach did. However, the face of his father, who said Sean is a stain, was like that of a man who looked at the clear sky and said it was blue. You must have learned enough as a member of Lombardy. There is a difference between the object of pouring out your heart and the object of compassion. Sigh. Gallihan sighed out. It seemed that he had expectations for his father without even realizing it. The vain hope that maybe he will understand yourself once in a while. The luggage bag felt heavier. The magnificence of this mansion, where he had lived his whole life, was unbearably uncomfortable, as if he was wearing clothes that did not fit his body. The things he had enjoyed as a Lombardi seemed to push him away. As he gripped his wet-soaked handle once, Galliahan nodded. Please stay healthy. That was all he could say as a child. You will regret it, said Lulak. No, I may miss you, but I will not regret it. After saying that, Gallian's back looked really refreshed. Flinch, Lulak's hand moved as if it was going to catch Galliahan right away. But that was all. Lulak didn't catch Galliahan in the end. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. When Gallihan asked for a ride outside the mansion, the coachman nodded his head while making a puzzled face. Can I take you to that place again today, Mr. Gallihan? The coachman asked Gallihan, who wasn't unloading the simple luggage bag. No, you don't have to do that in the future. After answering that, he closed the carriage door without any hesitation. The passers-by who had once or twice looked at the man coming out of Lombardy Mansion with interest soon lost interest when Gallihan mixed among them and began to walk. It's a relief. Gallihan. Gallihan muttered refreshingly. Thanks to his father showing him that appearance, his heart was not heavy to leave. On the contrary, he only made up his mind that his decision to leave his family was the right one. Shan and Lombardi, there was no regret over the decision. Shan, when he called out her name by himself, Gallihan's cold face was inevitably warmed. Let's hurry up and meet. He thought so, and it was time to hasten his steps. Shan, this time he wasn't talking to himself. He could see Shan standing alone in front of him, looking down at the tip of her feet, kicking the ground. Gallian hurried towards her without realizing it. Shan, what are you doing here? Gallian, Shan, with her head bowed, looked up at him. When he met those green eyes, he couldn't hide his excitement, so Gallihan laughed helplessly. It's far from Blue Wave. What are you doing here? Who were you waiting for? Gallihan. Yes? I was waiting for Gallihan. Were you waiting for me? Gallihan tilted his head. Did you know I was going down this road? She nodded her head at his question. She then hesitated for a moment before she answered. In my dreams. Yes, in Shan's dream. I saw Gallihan walking on this road alone with a bag, but he looked so lonely. There was a moment of silence. It was unusual between the two, who always talked when they met. And the more Gallihan blinked silently, the more nervous Shan's face became. I know. Behind his silence, which seemed like an eternity to her, he opened his mouth. You had a dream about me, right? Gallihan laughed like a child. Then he said, and tried to fix his expression belatedly, but he couldn't hide his wandering mouth. My desire to see Shan was so great that I even went to see her dream. Despite the playful remarks that followed, Shan could not laugh together. She looked at the luggage bag in his hand and asked carefully, Are you okay, Galyahan? There were times when my heart hurt a little, but now it's okay. Thanks to Shan, everything got better. That's a relief. Shan's big eyes, still full of worries for him, touched a corner of his heart. And maybe he was drunk with that tickling feeling, and courage like never before springed up. Galyahan carefully wrapped Shan's hand and grabbed it. If you're not busy right now, can you give me some time, Shan? Yes. Then shall we go this way? The two began walking in the direction Galyahan was pointing. Fortunately, there was no need to remove the hand holding Shan. Galyahan breathed with joy as he sighed with relief. It was such a strange thing. He lost everything a while ago, and it felt like he had the whole world. Actually, my name is Gallihan Lombardi. The story that started with a calm self-introduction was quite long. As he walked, holding her hand as far as his feet could reach, Gallihan carefully showed his feelings that he had never told anyone. Speechless, Shan listened to Gallihan's story. There was no urging, and there was no big refutation. All she did was nod her head once in a while, but that small gesture seemed to reassert him that it was okay. So I packed up and left the house today. When he spit it out, it was like saying that an immature child had run away from home. Gallihan smiled embarrassedly, then suddenly realized. Come to think of it, Shan, you never asked anything about me. It was always up to Gallihan to ask Shan any questions, because I knew you would say something like this one day. Shan replied with a shrug. Maybe she's not interested in me. Gallihan, who had been terrified, burst out laughing out loud. Sometimes Shan is like someone who really knows the future. That's why I'm more nervous. Gallihan stopped walking first. It was in front of a small two-story house with a red roof. Clink. With a small sound, he handed something he had pulled out of his arms. Key. It was a key tied with a small red ribbon. Shan looked down at what was suddenly held out in front of her and asked, What's this, Gallihan? This is the key to this house. As if embarrassed, Shan, who had only looked at the key, turned to the red roof house along Gallihan's fingertips. Oh, it was that house. The house where she and Gallihan lived happily ever after. Realizing the meaning of this moment, when he gave the key, Shan gulped down her dry saliva. Shan, Gallihan was also very nervous. Even though I am no longer a Lombardi, and I am not particularly good at anything, I love Shan deeply, and I want to live with Shan in this house. The hem of the ribbon fluttered together with trembling fingertips, holding the key tight like a lifeline. I was in a hurry to find a house here because Shan said she liked Lombardi, but we can go to another estate if you want. There are also several small buildings in the Susu estate, close to Shan's hometown. I don't care where it is, Shan, if you are by my side. With her, he would be happy to build a hut and live in the mountains. So what I mean is, Gallihan closed his eyes tightly and said, Marry me, Shan. Yes or no. Gallihan couldn't breathe and waited for an answer, but the answer was rarely heard. Eventually, Gallihan began to slowly open his closed eyes. Sean. Oh, Shan was crying. She had never lost her laughter when talking about her hometown and mother who she had left, or when she confessed the reality that she suddenly had nowhere to go. She was weeping sadly without thinking to wipe her tears from falling. It is. What did you say, Shan? Galliahan listened closely and asked again. I thought you wouldn't ask me forever. She feared the future will change. She's afraid he'll make another choice. Her heart, which she was afraid of alone, became tears and flowed out. Shan, Dalian held her in his arms. It was a relationship that he barely reached after giving up what he had when he was born. Thump thump, listening to Galyahan's intense heartbeat, Shan replied to him, Good, I'll marry you, Galyahan. End of chapter 312. Chapter 313. Shan and Galyahan held hands and entered the house. The cute kitchen and living room that can be seen at a glance greeted the two of them. Since it was a new house, the morning sun was filling the empty space without any significant items. Galyahan, who was watching Shan's gaze all over the house, spoke in a slightly impatient voice. Is it a bit narrow? Then there is a villa on the outskirts. No, I love this house, Galyahan. Thank God. Galyahan swept away his chest. I don't have a lot of stuff to prepare in a hurry, so from now on, please fill it with things that Shan likes. As he barely said those words, Gallihan blushed again as his heart fluttered again. Originally, I didn't intend to give out the house key like this out of nowhere. I was planning to propose properly after preparing well so that Shan would not be uncomfortable. Oh, recalling something he had forgotten while he was speaking, Gallihan began frantically searching through the bag he had left on the floor. It must have been put here. A small soft box was caught in his hurried fingertips. I found it. What's that? It's nothing special, but what came out of the box was a thin gold ring studded with purple gems. Gallian slowly put it on Shan's fourth finger. The ring fits perfectly, neither too big nor too small. Wow! Shan, who never expected to receive the ring, gleamed like a child. Seeing that, Gallian rubbed the top of the ring silently. Next time, I'll buy you a prettier ring, Shan. When he saw Shan receive the gift and she liked it, he became greedy. He wanted to give more of something better. No matter what kind of ring Gallihan gives me in the future, I'll cherish this ring the most. Shan shook her head and said, The nervousness when Gallihan proposed to me, and the warmth when I first entered this house. Every time I see this ring, I think of it. Shan looked around the inside of the house once more, and her gaze stayed long on the armchair by the window. The first day I came to this house was in this ring. Shan, with a small call, a gentle hand turned her head. Before she could even realize that she was in Gallian's arms, her lips touched. It came out it came up suddenly, and it was surprisingly hot. After touching it thoroughly, giving it a little gulp, and then digging into it. Like a fire spreading through dry grass, Shan exhaled a heavy breath from the heat that had transferred to her in an instant, but Gallihan took it all away. A strong arm greedily wrapped her arms around her, who was trembling for a short time as her legs lost strength. A little more, a little bit more. She was intoxicated with the mixing breath, and she was full of thoughts of wanting to get closer to him. Thump thump, when the sound of each other's heart is transmitted from the body touching, Gallihan said with lips that couldn't fall apart, Yes, Shan, this is our home now. With a face as red as her full breath, Shan nodded her head. Everything that his arms conveyed was good. The overwhelming feeling of happiness wetted her eyes again, which were barely drying up. But before it could flow, Gallian's tender touch wiped away the tears. I love you, Shan, at the beginning of a long kiss that seemed to never fall again. Gallian whispered softly, Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. The happy times passed quickly. Shan and Galliahan spent their first winter in their new home. And now, in the midday sunlight, it's time to feel the energy of early spring. The emperor's obituary was delivered. At that time, a white handkerchief was hung from house to house to signify mourning. There was a slightly different atmosphere in the red roof house. Galliahan, with a puzzled expression on his face, touched the black envelope that the person in the imperial palace had given him a while ago. The letter that can be recognized without even having to open it was an obituary sent by Jovanes, the crown prince and soon-to-be emperor of the empire. He had not publicly isolated himself from Lombardy, so he expected to receive an obituary letter. What puzzled Galliahan was the name of the recipient on the outside of the letter, Galliahan Lombardi and his wife. Since receiving a formal obituary, Shan was obligated to attend the emperor's funeral. What should I do? Galliahan stroked his forehead with a puzzled look. However, Shan was rather calm. I have to go. I can't help but go. But if you're worried about me, it's okay, Gali. It's just a matter of attending the funeral for a while and then coming back. Okay, it won't be a big deal. even as he watched the back of Sean going upstairs, saying that she had to prepare a dress to wear for the morning. Galliahan's worries did not go away. He is sure everyone from the Lombardi family would also be present. Maybe Sean will be in trouble there. The fear of biting his tail continued until he arrived at the Imperial Palace the next day. However, contrary to the expectations, nothing happened. Galliahand and Sean, who came in at the beginning of the funeral, settled far away from the members of Lombardi and never made eye contact with them. He thought the funeral would end safely like this. I will take you to Poirac Palace. Javanes called Galliahand to his palace. It seems that many nobles besides Galliahand were invited, perhaps to show as many people as possible that they were mourning the death of the emperor. I'll be in the carriage, Gali, Shan said to Galliahan, who got off in front of Poirac Palace. Will you be okay alone? At his worried question, she smiled and nodded her head. I am not feeling well because I'm nervous. I'm going to rest here for a bit. Oh, it's raining. Shan was, no, it's not. Shan was overdoing it, even if I'm sorry for the background noise. I'm sorry for the rain. Shan was overdoing it, even if she didn't show it on the outside. Galliahan, who guessed so, nodded with a stiff face. I'll be right back, Shan. After kissing her forehead, Galliahan entered the Poirac Palace with a solemn face. Hurry up and show your face and take care of your wife. Shan, who sat in the carriage and confirmed that Galliahan was entering the palace, opened the door of the carriage and came out, and she took her steps without hesitation. Normally, it was Poirac Palace where soldiers would stand guard here and there, but on a day with many visitors, like today, was an exception. Even when they saw Shan with many visitors like today, even when they saw Shan from the carriage heading towards the backyard of Poirac Palace, they thought she was just a noble lady to find air for a while. Whether it was a familiar or unfamiliar backyard, she stopped where the sunlight was particularly good. Several fates, including the death of the emperor, who had no chronic disease, and the invitation sent by Crown Prince Javanes were woven like threads. Click, she opened the small handbag that she had been holding in her hand all the time and took out the small bottle that was inside. The glass bottle was full of black and round little seeds. It was the seed of Bomnia. The glass bottle tilted over the fallen leaves that had not yet rotted throughout the winter. Tock tock. With a small sound, Bomnia seeds were scattered in the garden of Poirac Palace. Shan, who had a bottle containing Bomnia seeds in her bag, turned around without hesitation. She felt relieved as if she had finished the most important homework. When she returned to the carriage with a light step, Galliahan, who had already returned, was looking for her with contemplation. Shan, where did you go? I was worried. I felt like I was getting courage sickness, so I walked for a while. Are you done, Galli? Yes, I've showed my face to His Highness Jovanes, so I can go back now. While answering the question, there was still concern in the hand that removed the fallen leaves from the hem of her black dress. Come on, let's go. After putting Sean in the carriage first, he also sat next to her. When he get home, you take a bath in warm water and change into comfortable clothes. I will be making the milk tea that Sean likes. You need a lot of honey, Gali. Do you think I don't know Sean's taste? And if you drink some tea, I'll massage your feet. You had a lot of trouble wearing uncomfortable shoes today, my neck and shoulders too. At the words of Shan's grumbling, Gallian's face quickly turned into worry. Ah, are you in a lot of pain? Should I call a doctor as soon as I get home? No, it's not that bad. Shan, who shook her head and laughed, held Gallian's hand and said, I think I need Galli's love. Shan, he thought he'll get used to it now. Galliahan was helplessly embarrassed by his wife's cuteness. Then he knocked his fist against the wall on the side where the coachman was sitting. It was a signal to hurry up. Ha ha. In the end, Shan burst into laughter. Galliahan's face turned even redder, but his hands intertwined like pads were so hard. Sigh. She sighed and rested her head on her husband's shoulder. Hurry up and go to our home. May the happiest time of our lives be contained in our home. Shan gently closed her eyes with a smile. Translator's note. I heard that this chapter is the end of season 1 of the side story, so I made time to translate it as soon as I can. The author's going in hiatus for a while and will come up with season 2. The date of season 2 has not been announced yet. Oh, and this is the end of the story. I'll be the matriarch of this in this life by Kim Roa. I'm Emily, and thank you for your support. I hope you enjoy reading with me, and please support and subscribe to my YouTube channel. And thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.